Sorry about that. Hi everybody, it's Mena. Welcome back to my channel, or if this is the very first video that you're seeing of me, then welcome to my channel. Please be sure to hit the subscribe button down below if you didn't already. I post every day of the week vlog. And today in this video, I'm going to tell you guys a very embarrassing story about how I freaked out over a small blood clipping. So this was like a thing where they had to get a sample of my blood sugar. I'm sure some of you guys are familiar with it. If you have to get test samples for your blood sugar and stuff. I had to get it for chemo. I didn't have any health problems, but I had to get it for chemo. And I freaked out because I was super scared because I wasn't, like, at the time used to getting my blood pricked or anything, because I was so used to getting all my stuff through my Broviac, and I was relying a lot on my Broviac for everything, but they couldn't do this through my Broviac. So I'm going to get started, and hopefully this teaches you guys that when you get something very small, it may sound scary, but don't let your fear get in the way of it, because you can freak out over something very, very small. So I'm going to get started. So this all started when I was 13 years old. I was sitting in the hospital. My nurse came in to check up on me, and my mom was sitting with me, and she said she needed to get a sample of my blood. I was a little bit nervous, sample of my blood sugar, and I was kind of like I was like, how are you going? So I was curious to know how they were going to do that, and the nurse said, oh, we just need to get a little clip sample of your blood. We're just going to clip your finger a little bit. And I was super scared. I start biting my nails, I start crying, and I'm like freaking out. I don't know what to do. I'm like breathing heavily, and I'm super duper scared, and my mom's like, it's going to be okay, it's not that big of a deal, blah 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 blah. So the nurse comes, and I'm like freaking out. I start crying. My nurse comes in with a tool for my blood sugar testing. It looks like kind of like scissors. So the tool kind of looked like a staple remover almost, but except it was more pointy. And the nurse came in with that tool, and that's what the tool kind of looked like. That's all I remember so far. And so she comes in, I'm a little scared, I'm like crying, and I was like, I don't want it, I don't want it. They're like, but we have to do it, blah, 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 blah. So the nurse grabs my finger, I'm like crying and screaming and crying and screaming, and then they clip my finger, and before I know it, it's all done. And I was like, oh, that was quick. And I was a little bit embarrassed that I freaked out over that, because it was just a small, quick clip, and I literally couldn't believe I let myself have a panic attack over that. My mom was explaining to me why did you freak out over something very small? I was like, I'm sorry, I'd never had that before, so I didn't know what it was. And I guess I learned a lesson that day, not to freak out over something that you don't even know what it is. And I was a little embarrassed because everyone in my hospital room probably heard me. Even I must have probably woken my roommate up. So I apologized to my nurse, my mom, and my roommate at the hospital. And they were very forgiving, and they said and then my nurse was very understanding, because I think she's had like patients who have had freakouts over those kind of things too, because a lot of them aren't used to having their blood drawn like that, so a lot of them get pretty scared. And I kind of did feel a lot better about that, because I'm not the only one who gets scared over those things. And I was still embarrassed but I was still kind of embarrassed that I freaked out over something that tiny. And my mom's like next time just see what it is before you start freaking out, blah 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 blah, because I was screaming so loud, because I think everyone in the hospital heard me, which is probably embarrassing. So the moral of the story is, if you're getting something that has to do with pricking and you don't even know how big or small it is, don't freak out over it, because you literally can alarm almost everyone in the hospital, and it is so embarrassing if you alarm everyone in the hospital, because you're probably thinking somebody's hurting you and blah 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 blah. I know people get kind of freaked out when they're in hospitals and stuff, but it's just important to see what something is that the nurse is going to do to you before you get scared and get all freaked out. Because if it's something that small, you don't want to freak out over something small. I know needles are something small, but I know a lot of people freak out over needles. But if you're getting something small like a tiny blood clipping, don't freak out over it. Wait to see what it is first before you start freaking out, because you could probably alarm everyone in the hospital, and that's not good. So, and a hospital is not really the best place to be freaking out and screaming, because even though it gets scary to be in the hospital, it's like not really a good place to have like a freak out or anything, because you could disturb like nurses, or I mean, you could disturb other patients and stuff. It is no fun to be screaming in a hospital. So that was a story about how my embarrassing story about how I freaked out over a small blood clipping. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I post every day of the week now, and I'll see you in every video soon. Bye.